Get set, podcast listener, and be ready to win with your mentor, motivator, and marketer, Cam Roberts. Grow your business and achieve your goals quickly with the latest tips, tools, and tactics on business, success, and marketing. Subscribe now and download your free resources at camroberts.com.au.
Hey everyone, Cam Roberts here, your friend in business success and marketing. And here we are on another podcast episode on personal brand talk. And today's special guest is Steve Martile. And Steve is started as a mechanical engineer, actually, and then became a life coach. And today he runs a marketing agency that helps entrepreneurs and build their businesses. And he has over 1.5 million plus views on his YouTube channel. And he is known for his 7 Day Manifestation experiment. And he's got a new book out. And we want to talk about that today. So Steve, thank you for coming on the podcast show.
Man, happy to be here. Where do we start?
Now, look, let's start with, how you got into the industry you're in now, because I said you've got a marketing agency, but it's a different marketing agency from most agencies. Like, you actually help people get best-selling books. So let's start there. How did that get about, and how did you get into that sort of business?
Okay, cool. So I'll give you like the Coles notes. So I'm 45. So I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm in Canada, based in Canada, but I travel a lot in the US. My wife and I travel a lot in the US. I started as a mechanical engineer way back. So I did that for about 15 years. During the time I was working as a mechanical engineer, about 7-8 years, and I had like a sort of life crisis, and I was like, I need to do something different. I got to get out of this industry. And it was just like, I had this void inside. So I needed to do something about the void. And I went and started my own life coaching business. When I went up to the president of the company I was working, I was like, I'm going to start my own life coaching business. He comes over, he gives me a big hug. And I was like, okay, that's weird. I'm like, he was very supportive. And remember, I'm a mechanical engineer. So it's like, no questions. He was like very supportive. I worked on contract for a few months, and then I was on my own. But because I didn't have the business skills, although I had a lot of my ideas that came out, even the book itself, the 7 Day Manifestation experiment came out at that time, because I didn't have the business skills, how to create the business, I ended up going back to work about 1.5 years later. Now, when I got that job, I was in a bit of a crisis, because I was like, debt was piling up, mortgage was piling up, no money's coming in. My wife's the only one working. We're living in Toronto, and we have, it's like we're spending twice as much as we're earning. And you can only do that for so long before you got to pay the bills. So I said, okay, I believe in this thing, this higher creator that's going to support me. I always have. It started, and I talk about the story in the book, but I was like, okay, I got to find a job. So what I would do is every morning I would go through it. I'm not going to go through all the steps. Basically, I'd go through this process. And I'm like, I'm going to create and visualize what I want. So 35 days later, I get this job. I negotiate a transfer bonus, basically a signing bonus. The job was amazing. I went through a couple of other jobs after that and realized I got to get into my own business. I did. I started working with some construction companies, doing social media marketing for them. That was very lucrative. And that got me started into like social media marketing. The way I got into this business, which is crazy, is Travis Cody, who's the founder of the company. He's from Vegas. And he said to me, he goes, man, I would love if you could help me with this business. And if you do, I'll help you with your book. Well, 2013, I published a video on my YouTube channel called the 7 Day Manifestation Experiment. It's got like 460, I think 3,000 views now. And so it's one of these videos where I was like, okay, this is a book. I know it's a book, but I just didn't know how to write it. And I started and stopped the book 2 or 3 times, and just never got something happy with the outline. So fast forward to this year, because I've known Travis for about 14, 15 months, I start helping him with the sales calls, because he had done like, I don't like to throw him under the bus, but he had done like 120 sales calls in about 6 months and signed like 5 or 6 clients. I can't remember that. Wasn't very good. I'm like, what are you saying on these sales calls? So I said, I will run your sales calls if you can help me with the book. So that's how we started. And I actually did it for free because I needed the help with the book. On April 7th this year, I decided, okay, I'm going to start the book. I was in Idaho with my wife. We were skiing there, so Northwest US. And it's Sunday night, and Travis goes to me, all I want you to do is just go through some of this material and get back to me. So the next morning I wake up And it really, like, in an hour, I write down chapter by chapter the whole outline for the book. And I was like, okay, this is the book. I didn't even think I had a book. I thought I had like maybe 1,000, 1,500 words. But so April, 3 weeks go by, I do nothing, because then we come back to Canada. My wife and I move back to Canada. So now it's May 1st. And from May till May 31st, I start putting together the content for the book, a lot of talking through the book, not writing, about 4 hours a week. And I get like 19,000 words. And I'm like, holy crap, my first draft of the book. Going to editing in June, I add another 9,000 words. It's at 28,000 words. I finalize it. It's 158 pages. I published it literally like 2 weeks ago. And I'm getting a lot of great feedback from it. But the key was I published the whole book in about 4 months.
Yeah, that's good.
And I was thrilled, right? So every time I talk to someone, I'm always going through, and I can go into intricate detail in the process. But the key thing is, if you go like to a ghostwriter, it's like, you know, a certified ghostwriter will cost you $35,000 minimum, and they go up to $120,000. The reason I know that is because I did some marketing for ghostwriters and figured out what the going rate was, and that's US dollars. And what I discovered is that if you could talk through the book, you do it much faster. It doesn't have to take years to write it. You get a good editor involved, and that's what makes someone like an author become an author. It's because the editor is the one who knows how to write. So anyways, that's how I got involved in the business. And I continue to do the sales for Travis. And so we partner together. And now I'm writing my second book. So that's kind of a long story short, but that's how I got involved.
Excellent. So look, your stories are all based around, your experience in life and also books. So let's dive into the second one a little bit more, because, personal brand talk is all about, helping people with their brand and their marketing. And you spoke about social media. So I'd like to start there. Like, you spoke about how you had one video go really well on YouTube. So let's start with that. Like, what tips could you give someone about, getting good YouTube views? Because I know a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs start out, they think they do a YouTube video here or there and it kind of tanks, nothing really happens. So what are a couple of little tips you can give people to kind of get seen on what is a busy channel?
I mean, it's interesting, right? So after I came out with the 7 Day Manifestation experiment, I had for about 5 or 6 years, I had people in Texas and in New York, and they were running these 7-day, what they were calling challenges. And I'm like, that's not what I called it. Even the book's called The Experiment. Right. And so people started shooting videos of my videos, talking about it, say, I encourage you to try this challenge, because I was like, but it's not a challenge. It's just like, so it's funny, when I was talking to the initial woman who did the editing for my book, one of the questions they asked me is, they said, okay, what makes your book unique? I'm like, I have no idea. And she goes, the 7 Day Manifestation experiment. That's what's unique. It's not a challenge. Right. I was like, well, that's a good. I had no idea. So I don't know, man. I'm like, I could say some great strategies for like what to create as a great video. But what I can tell you is that a little bit of luck had to do with it. Persistence. That was probably my 60th video. It wasn't the first one. It was the 60th one. Right. I was creating the content because I was passionate about the topic and I wanted to help people. It wasn't about the money. Yeah. But the key thing was, in the video, I say, I want you to go do this challenge, experiment. Yeah. And then I want you to come back and let me know the results you got in the comments below. Yeah. And that's when things started to take off, because people were commenting. It wasn't just like an opinion piece. Let me know what you think of the video. It's like, no, here's a tip. Go back and try it. Let me know how it goes. And it wasn't like a 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. It's like, no, just 7 days. Let's just keep it really straight. And so people started coming back, and I've got a bunch of people that have commented, like in the book, like 1,300 comments or something, I took some of those, put them in the book. And it's like, it's about, and then, I quote a bunch of different people. One of the people I quoted, I can't remember his exact name now, but he's basically like, life's an experiment. Just treat it that way. So just kind of always like be testing things. And so that's kind of always been my mentality. But what I do now with my YouTube videos is very much different than what I did then, because I started the channel in probably 2009. The videos I do now, I do the exact video, great content. They don't get as much exposure because there's way more people publishing content. Yeah, but this is the crazy thing about life and synchronicity. I had this guy who's a video editor reach out to me. He goes, I love your videos. I'd love to do some editing for you. This was like 3 weeks ago. And what he did was, I said, okay, sure. And he goes, I'll even do the first one for free. And I said, okay, go for it. So he does the first one. He sends it back to me. I'm like, this guy's a genius. He like killed it.
Yeah.
And I posted the video, and then all of a sudden it started to go viral. And I was like, oh shit. I'm like, this is how you get attention in today's YouTube age.
Yeah,
and so
right.
he's like, the standard cost is $100. I said, what are you going to charge me? I'll pay you every week to do these videos for me. He's charging me $25. I'm like, it's totally worth it to build a
That's
channel.
good. Yeah,
Totally worth it.
Yeah. Very good.
So in a nutshell, that's what I can say about, the YouTube channel, what to do about it.
Excellent. And I love how you transitioned that platform being YouTube and video into a written book, because so many of us are on screens, right? And stuck on devices all day long. So it's good to have a hard copy book that you can kind of get into.
I'll give you another reason why a book's really powerful. I hadn't realized this when I first got started, Cam, but the channels and the number of ways you can market a book. So let me just give you an example. So as part of our service, it's something we've added. We have access to 1,300 foreign publishers. So the way that works is when you publish your book in English on Amazon, you self-publish it on your company. So you have 100% copyright of the book, which is cool because you control how you market it and what you do with it. However, once you own that copyright, what we do is we shop out your manuscript through these 1,300 publishers. And if, say, a publisher in Germany, Japan, Portugal, and Brazil pick up on it, they will publish it for you, and they will buy advanced copies of the book, and they will pay you royalties on future sales. That relationship or that engagement of no sales usually ends up paying for the actual program to get your book created.
Yeah,
and
right.
So you break even on the book, you get it written, quote unquote, and published for free, but then you have access to all these other publishers that are publishing in different languages. The power of that is that regardless if you're just looking for consulting gigs or building a coaching business or a membership area, it's like you're getting eyeballs and traffic from a new audience that can then go through like a book sales funnel. So, and I'll show you, keep it real simple. So inside my book, I've got like a QR code and a free resources, right? And it's a meditation.
Yeah.
And so people can go to that right off a Kindle or right off, basically grab your phone, QR code, boom, like you're on the meditation, you download it, and then you can offer other things. We had a guy who just did a book. We ran a book, Amazon best-selling campaign for him in the US. In 2 months after the book came out, he got 2 six-figure clients. And had another woman, she doubled her consulting fees, went from 90 to 180 just from having the book, because this is like the lowest cost thing that you can create with the highest perceived value.
Right.
And it's so crazy because this woman who was actually consulting at $90 an hour, she was a stay-at-home mom, and she was charging $90 an hour, and she had 3 people that she was speaking to were potential sales prospects. After she came out with the book, she's like, I doubled my rates. She mailed the book to each one of those prospects, and a month later, all 3 of them signed up at the higher rate.
Yeah,
so
it's
book's really powerful, that way.
Excellent. So you've spoken about, you've mentioned the word consultants, you've mentioned the word coaches, you spoke about people that run membership sites. What other types of people can benefit from having a book?
Yeah, so it's crazy because we cover a lot of different aspects, but I mean, we do business, books, leadership, advertising. Those are probably our bread and butter. Probably 90% of our clients in that space. Self-help, personal growth, even like things like spiritual. You could be, there's so much you can do, like as far as you can go with that on the spiritual side. And then on top of that, we do fiction books as well, because Travis worked in LA and Hollywood as a screenwriter for 15 years. The guy was, creating these big movies. He's got the experience to he's got 12 of his own published books. So we cover a lot of different areas. And actually, I'm talking to a fiction writer right now who's got, it's like, well, I won't give it away because but it's really cool because we were talking, it's like, dude, you got to get this in other languages too, because this could be something that goes worldwide. So we cover consulting. And this is an interesting question I get all the time. Not only the books or the types of businesses we cover, which are coaching, consulting, people want to get new stages, but also people like say, well, how do you get the ROI? And I'm like, a lot of times it doesn't come from the book sales. It comes from what you sell on the back end of the book. Yeah. So we cover a lot of different areas, but like you even had a woman we were talking to the children's book series. So, and we do not a fiction, mostly nonfiction, but do some fiction as well.
Excellent. So like, as you said, the book becomes a positioning tool, right? It positions the person as the industry expert. They're now an author. They can put their prices up. They can demand, spots on stages and on podcasts, things like that, right? But what are some of the thing is, Yeah,
the
go
other
on.
thing is, Cam, I just wanted to add this because this is a really key thing that I didn't realize until I actually written my own book, is that when people read a book, if they pick up your book and read like this synopsis, or they read the front cover and they put it down, the reason that sometimes happens, they might not be the right time, but there's not enough value alignment. As soon as you get someone who reads it and their book becomes a page turner, and obviously we teach clients and show them how to do that, but when you get someone who rips through your book really quickly, that means the alignment of the values is aligned, which means when they go to book a consult with you, they're going to be aligned with your values.
Yeah,
So
right. That's
the key thing, so what the book becomes is a filter for your business to just get the right people, qualified leads. So I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that. So the book becomes the filter to get the right people to talk to. And you've done, and you spoke about at the start how you helped Travis with his sales call, because he had, this unbelievable 180 sales calls and 3 conversions, right?
Sorry, Travis.
But there's a lot of people, let's be honest, there's a lot of people in that same position, right? So they can generate the leads, they write the book or whatever, but they have trouble converting. So one of the things I wanted to ask you was, what are some little tips you can give people once they create that book funnel or that journey or that QR code? Like, what are some of the other little tips? They've got their book, but what else should they be thinking about so that they can actually monetize the book?
Yeah, great question. It's really up to them. And it's, like I said, it's all over the board. So, like last week I talked to a guy, actually today last week I talked to 2 gentlemen that one was in Ireland, the other one was in the UK, and they're looking just to get consults, right? To get additional consultations, additional clients, which I know a book will do. The other gentleman I spoke to last week, who's from the UK, is looking to build an entire coaching platform. So he has the technology and he wants to basically take his one-on-one, which, this guy charges $1 million for one client, but he's like working with teams one-on-one with all the teams, and take that and build it through a membership platform. So he's like got all the tech, he's got programmers working through it. So he's using the book to position and entirely start a brand new business. I have other people who want to get on new stages, other clients who want to get on new stages, and even others that like went from one type of consultancy and want to position themselves into a new type of consultancy, right? And it's a great way to do it. And for a lot of them, it's interesting. I would say about 25% of the people that I talk to that become clients, they are actually looking to reposition their entire branding, which means a change in their identity because they haven't exposed or shared this part of themselves before. But it's a great way to do it because you can give people a lot of insight and nuances and worldview change with the book. So I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And so let's talk about some of the mistakes maybe people make when writing. You gave some really good tips about how you spoke the book, but then you had to find an editor. So what are some of the mistakes about either finding an editor or, putting it together and putting that framework? What are some of the common mistakes you see people make?
Okay, so the biggest one is, and this is more of a misconception than a mistake, Cam, is that I don't have the time to write the book because they think they have to write it. And the reason I say that is because I've had people reach out to me and say, I've spent 10 years writing this book and I'm still not done. And I'm like, well, I did my draft in 31 days. You better not talk to me. And that might be an insecurity or fear thing, but I'm just like, it could be a belief thing where they just don't believe it's possible. Yeah. For me, since I posted the first video in 2013, I was like, I'm gonna do a book and it's gonna be quick. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but it's gonna be quick. But this is a misconception about writing, is that if it's quick, it's not high quality, and that's not true at all. This book is better than anything else I've ever written. The first 2 colleagues I had read it, one is an engineer and the other one's a chiropractor, and they both gave me glowing reviews. And this is not a business book. Yeah, right. So I was really blown away. And the reason is because the editor takes my ideas and then brings them to life in a compelling way. There's some rewriting there and some changes. Like, for example, I remember the first call I got on with the editor. She goes, you share this the story in chapter 2 from when you were working as an engineer, you transitioned to life coach. But she goes, I don't understand, what was the tension you were dealing with? And I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. So I go back and rewrite some of the things that in a way that explained that tension that was, I had one thing pulling me one way and another pulling another way. So that's what a real good editor does. But the key thing is that, like, the 2 things I always see is that you got to spend a lot of time. If you don't spend a lot of time, then it's not high quality. And that's a misconception. what it really is about the book, and this is for a lot of our clients because a lot of them have a lot of business experience, is they're coming to us and they have too many ideas. And the key thing what our process does is it helps you focus and narrow in so that you've got an outline, and then you're only focusing on the chapter by chapter outline on those topics. And then you also, as you're going through, because we help you with the framework, you can think about it in a way that when you start a chapter, you know when it's done. And when you start the book, you know when it's done. And any ideas outside of that, you know, are your second book. And I'll give you a good example.
Right, yeah.
When I started this book, I had a section where I talk about beliefs, limiting beliefs. And the proofreader said to me, she goes, you know, you talk about limiting beliefs on this. Do you want to expand on this? And I'm like, no, that's my second book.
Right.
So I knew
really
not to
good.
divert from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are a couple of things. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, that's really good. So look, let's change gears a bit and talk about your book. So we haven't really touched on that at all. So
cool.
Let's talk about your book, the 7 Day Manifesto, Manifestation Experiment, right?
Boom.
So what's the subline there? The subheading?
Oh, how you can create the life of your dreams.
Okay, great. So let's start there. So how do people create the life of their dreams? We talk about, like, you know, books can obviously help that, but what are some steps to creating the life of their dreams, or what's holding people back?
Okay, so when I started this video, it was because I had a client, again, in the UK. I got a lot of friends in the UK. And so this gentleman was like, he came to me, hired me, you know, and I was starting as a life coach. And we were working together for about 2 or 3 weeks and he wasn't getting any progress. And I said, I want you to forget everything that you believe for just a minute. And I just want you to focus on 3 things that you want to create over the next 7 days. And I want you to, and I said, you know, do you believe in a higher power or something? He said, yeah. It's because if you don't believe in a higher power, this doesn't work. Right. But in this case, he did. I said, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to set an intention, and just every day for 2-3 minutes, I want you to pick 3 things, one of them being money, that you will create over the next 7 days. Okay. So he picks his 3 things. One of them was to get a gig. He was in a band. 2 was to have someone make him dinner during the week. Okay. And number 3 was to win the card game he plays every week at the pub. Okay. With the guys. So he goes away, does this 2 or 3 minutes every day, just visualizing the way it described his 3 steps. Pick what 3 things you want, visualize them, and then acknowledge them when they show up. Those are the 3 steps that I share in the 7-day manifestation video. So we have a call the next week. He emails me ahead of the time. He goes, Steve, all 3 of them showed up. He said, I got dinner. He goes, my partner cooked me dinner. He goes, I won the card game. He goes, I've been losing. I won the card game this week. And he said he got a gig. And the reason that it worked is because he believed there was a higher power. But I also said, pick things, and this is step 2. I said, pick things that are believable to you. What do I mean by that? Right. So if you said, okay, I want to build a business that makes $1 million in the next 12 months, on a scale of 1 to 10, you absolutely know it's possible. And for some entrepreneurs, it's going to be a no-brainer. And then 1 being, there's no way in hell. Now, if you're a no way in hell and you set that as your intention, it's not going to work. So I say, pick something that's an 8 out of 10 believability for you, and then surrender. I did it. My editor, as we're going through writing the book, the last call we had together, she goes, you know what? I was reading your book. I'm going through all this. And I'm like, I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to see what happens. So she had been like visualizing, you know, just getting a coffee, something simple, 8 out of 10 believable to her. She went out hiking with a friend of hers. She totally forgot that she did it. And they went out, and after their hike, they came out to a chapter, like a bookstore. They go in the bookstore, and they were just going to sit down. And her friend goes, oh, there's like a Starbucks there. Did you want a coffee? She said, sir. She bought her a coffee. So she just picked something. So she goes, I got the coffee. Yep. And I wasn't even like, so the reason I created the exercise is like, okay, people are so focused on the external world that they don't give enough time to their internal world. And because of that, they're trying to change the outside by using manipulation, control, those sorts of things. And I said, what if you could just surrender your focus on the outside for just a little bit, go inside, and then create something new? And my logic was this. If you have a resume or something that you're applying for a job, and what you do is you print out the resume, right? And it's printed in front of you. And then you white out the mistake. And then you go to the printer again, and you print the digital copy where you didn't make the change. And then it comes up and the same mistake shows up. And that's what people are doing. That's what my client was doing.
Yep.
They weren't making the change on the digital side. They're making the change on the physical side. So, well, what if you make the change on the digital side? How would that change on the outside? And that's where the whole experiment came from.
Excellent. Very good. And you spoke about visualization. I come from actually a sporting background. For many years, I was a high performance sports coach. And I know athletes use visualization very effectively as well. But, you know, I'm going to assume there's some people listening to this podcast or watching this and thinking, visualization, what's that? So can you kind of dive into that a little bit about what is visualization and how people can do it?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, we've got 4 different brain states, okay? We're in our sleeping, we're in a beta, and then there's alpha, theta, beta, and then there's delta. So delta is sleep, beta is awake. Right now, you and I are generally in beta for the most part. If we start to doze off or you feel like you're going to take a nap, you're in alpha, theta. The key is that when you're in alpha, theta, which is 2 times during the day, at night and in the morning, you wake up, you're in theta, you have access to the subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious is which controls your behaviors, controls your perceptions. So something that you create in that state changes your perception during the day. The example being attracting or seeing a coffee show up, right? So the key is to do any sort of visualization at that time of day. And honestly, if people want to learn more, they can just go to the 7-Day Manifestation Experiment video, Google my name, it'll pop up. And then there's like a 10-minute video that explains it right there. And if they want, they can get my book too. But that's in a very kind of condensed way, like what you would do in terms of to visualize.
Excellent. And Steve, we're almost out of time, but you mentioned a way that people could get access to your book, but we've been talking about publishing a book and we've been talking about your book also. So how can people, you know, learn more about either of those things?
Cool. If you're interested in writing a book, you've been thinking about it a while and it's something you want to do now or in the next 90 days, you can go to bestsellerbydesign.com/consult. We got the prices there, the guarantee there, and there's basically a link at the bottom that will drive you to my calendar. You fill in a couple questions and we jump on Zoom and we chat and I see if we can help you. And even like explore, maybe expand on the ideas for the book, because that's what we do on those calls. I really like to dive in and see, is there something meaningful that you can use to contribute in the book? And then secondly, to get my book, you can just basically go to Amazon on any platform, australia.co.uk, in canada.ca.com. It's on all the platforms, and basically you can buy the book Kindle and you can buy the soft cover, and I'm working on the audio. Should be out in a couple of weeks, Audible.
Excellent. Sounds amazing. So we'll make sure that we put all of those links in the show notes. So check out the show notes wherever you're listening or watching this video. So Steve, thank you very much for coming on the podcast show.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.